All right. What's going on, everyone? This is episode 290 of the Move Now Chiropractor. I'm Dr. Todd. This is Danny over here. In the new face, this is Courtney, who maybe you haven't seen before, but Courtney runs our front office. And she's on the show today to talk about how that happened, a little bit about her history, because she's doing a phenomenal job. So if you're a chiropractor or staff listening to this, which is pretty much our main audience, and you want to get your front desk working better, this is going to be a great episode for you because Courtney is going to share her experience, but we're also going to share a lot of personality pieces that I think are good for you to look for in the people that you put in that position. And so Danny's here because Danny, you've seen Danny in all of our episodes before. If you ever joined us, she's our office manager, our doctor support. She's the one that is face to face with everyone, training them. And so she's going to be able to tell the story and give good feedback. And hopefully this will be me talking less and them talking more in this episode and we'll get it rolling. So with that said, let's roll the intro and we'll go. Here's what so many chiropractors have been searching for. How can we expand our clinical reach by finally addressing more than just the segmental component with our patients, but at the same time, not feel like we are selling out our chiropractic principles? The reality is our patients count on us to guide them. And when it comes to results, we must also address their posture and their movement. The verdict is out. Patients have spoken, and this is what they want and what they need, focusing on functional movement and corrective exercise. So how do we practice in a way where our community is engaged, excited, and seeking us out because of this comprehensive, results-based approach? That's the goal we've all been searching for, and this podcast will show you how. My name is Dr. Todd Pickman, and welcome to the Move Now Chiropractor. All right, we are back. Okay, episode 290. We're talking about front office stuff and really the history of Courtney.
Yep.
So why don't we take it away, and I'll let Danny ask some questions and lead this. We have some bullet point notes that we made before we got started to try to keep us on track. So Danny, take it away.
All right. So first, let's start. Who is Courtney? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I've been in the chiropractic world for not as long as I had hoped. I started about a year and a half ago with another clinic. I did get introduced to chiropractic back in 2016 though, and kind of blew my mind, opened my world, dove head into all of what chiropractic was and what it could benefit to our lives. So we started going to the chiropractor pretty regularly, and I just really loved everything that it was about.
Was this you and family? Or?
Yes, so this was me and my husband. Okay. I think it was like a Groupon that he had found. No. I know. And right. He went to the chiropractor and they
but it
had
worked for
like
you guys. Hey, Groupon changed your life.
So they kind of had like a educational night, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, you have to come. You'll never guess what I'm learning about." So I went with him and we signed up. Hook, line, and sinker, they got us. We were going 3 times a week for quite a few months. And then, unfortunately, as it happens sometimes, money runs out and we kind of quit going. Then my in-laws, they live up in Ohio, and they started going to a chiropractor, and they just raved about him. And this was a chiropractor that kind of also worked in kind of more functional medicine, all different kinds of things, and how they taught us like chiropractic is just kind of a piece of seeking out good health and good nutrition. So we actually went to visit them, and for our Christmas presents, they bought us a blood work package. So this chiropractor did blood work on us, got us adjusted, took x-rays, and started us on a candida diet.
This was you guys going from Florida to Ohio to visit?
Yes, just to visit.
Okay.
So it wasn't going to be our chiropractor long term, but it was just an amazing experience. The atmosphere of the office was just so cool, and I felt like there was just so much more I needed to learn and wanted to learn. So that was when I really dove head into health and nutrition, even outside of just chiropractic. And then
as far as just trying to eat healthier yourself,
yes,
and stuff.
We actually found Dr. Gundry, and we read his book, The Plant Paradox. And that really kind of opened up our eyes to food what you put in your body is, what you're going to get out of your body. And really the things that are common in this world that we're eating is literally destroying us from the inside out.
So at that moment, you stopped drinking 4 liters of Mountain Dew a day. Right?
Yes, I was more of a Dr. Pepper person.
Oh, you were? I was totally joking.
Yeah. My husband was 2 Cokes a day. Like, it was really hard. But I mean, it's been a good 9 years now since we've been.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So anyway, so then I kind of knew that I wanted to be in the chiropractic world. Like, that was where my passion was. As so often happens with people, you get nervous and you get scared, because I had been in childcare for 13 years. And that was what my education was in. That was what all of my experience was in, but my heart wasn't really in it anymore. And so finally what made me take the leap was my husband was dealing with some health issues. And I knew that if I worked in a chiropractic office, I would have that help at my fingertips. I would have doctors to ask. He would get care. So that kind of pushed me into like, okay, I have to do this. And it was great for me because I needed that push, because then it wasn't about me. And so I got unscared and I applied to a couple chiropractic offices and I got hired, and it was a fantastic experience. The doctors were amazing.
This is when you moved from Florida out to Idaho.
No.
Oh, this is in Florida.
No, this is in Idaho, but I did nanny for a while here.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I see.
So this chiropractor was in Idaho.
And then that chiropractor in Idaho ended up splitting with a partner or something. And so they gave you guys a heads up that, hey, we love you, but we're not going to have a job for you. And then you started applying. We found you. You found us.
Yes.
Pick up there and tell us how that went.
Yeah. So I started reaching out. There were quite a few chiropractic offices looking for help, actually. And I was just kind of applying to all because I knew that I wanted to stay in that world, and I was willing to just try whatever I could to stay there. Your guys' ad did intrigue me and then I went and looked you guys up online, and I saw all of the different aspects that you tied into one office. And that is something that I was looking for, because as much as I know just getting adjusted is amazing, I was beginning to understand that that's not all of it. And so I was definitely looking for an office that wanted to give their patients more.
Gotcha.
And so, pretty much as soon as I applied, Danny reached out to me and we did a Saturday Zoom. And I was in my car because I do not get reception at my house.
Man, that's a similar story of Emily.
Yeah, everybody I reach out immediately. We meet on Saturdays on Zoom, and you guys are in your cars.
Yeah. So we had a Zoom. It went pretty well. She knew the doctor that I was previously working for, so she kind of already got good vibes from me, I think. She kind of knew what I had been taught in chiropractic and trusted it. And so we kind of set up an in-person interview from there. And I went in, and we actually, I think, talked for 2 hours.
Yeah.
It was a great interview. It was one of the longest interviews I've ever had, but it was more like just sitting down with a friend and just chatting. And it was really great because I felt like I was among my people. I felt like we would all get along, and I was able to be vulnerable and open, and it just went really well.
So obviously finding someone like you know, who has that passion already built in, that's hard to find.
Yeah.
That's what we are searching for when we're trying to find someone to join our team, is someone that already has a history, that has already gone through a transformation themselves and come to that epiphany and understand the importance of it. I guess that aside, just to talk to some of the specifics so that the chiropractors out there watching this can maybe pick up some things on this. What were things about the ad? I know you said you went to the website, looked at the website. You saw it was like a multifactorial approach. What were things on the ad that caught your attention? Or also, if you can take me through, like, how many other chiropractic clinics do you think you applied to? Did you talk to them? Did you interview anywhere else?
So the ad, I think, was specifically looking for traction, the one I applied to, or more of a multifaceted person, but really traction. And that intrigued me because I didn't know what that was. But the way that it was described, I was like, I wonder if I can do this. I do have to say though, I almost didn't apply because it said that you have to be 5'4" or taller.
How tall are you?
5'3".
Oh, are you really?
And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for it anyway.
Oh man. Jeez.
I don't think we've ever pulled out a tape measure though. Really? And measured people. So.
We should probably modify the ad to be like 5'4" preferable, or if you're really awesome, maybe if you're shorter.
Yeah. I do still use a tool or the stool. I do have to drag that out just
sometimes. Yeah.
Is Paul 5'4"?
Yeah, he is 5'4". I think he like right there.
Okay.
Yeah. He's not even here to defend himself.
I know.
All right.
So yeah, and then also I think just the kind of people that you were looking for, the kind of environment that you guys wanted to promote really just spoke to me. Happy, welcoming patients, that kind of thing. So.
Okay. So then I guess question, did you interview with other chiropractic clinics?
I did have an interview scheduled for the day after our in-person interview. And I called them right after and I said, you know what, I'm not going to come. I really like this other office. And I think they're going to, extend me an offer.
Cool. Awesome.
So, yeah.
Cool. Well, okay. So like takeaways for people out there who are maybe having problems hiring, because like this is a problem everywhere in all businesses, but in chiropractic clinics, it's a big thing too. Danny talks to a lot of clinics and hears about this. So I think the theme that I'm picking up on, because I'm less involved in the process, it's you that's doing this, Danny. It seems like what I'm hearing from everyone is that there's immediate outreach.
Yes.
So it's very timely.
Yep.
It's not like, I applied and then like a week later, someone got back to me, right? Even if it's on a Saturday.
Yep.
And then it's like, there's urgency. And so that person on the other side usually is caught off guard and they're like, oh my gosh, it happened so fast. And this person reached out to me. And I think that's what stands out to them as being different. Is like, no one else is doing that.
Yep.
Everyone else is just like, oh, it's a Saturday, I'll wait till Monday.
Yep. And then our process too, like if I reach out to somebody on a Saturday and I'm like, hey, do you have time to jump on Zoom? And they say yes, then I know that they're eager and want to know more. And then we do our Zoom interview. And then the in-person, I want to see if their energy matches the Zoom, but it also, I like to turn it a little bit personal so I can get to know somebody and kind of get their walls to come down. And then also establish that kind of, more real relationship and not just very stern and stoic and ask you a question, you answer, ask you a question, you answer. And I think at one point we did shed a tear or two.
Yes, we did.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, but we established that like family boundary right away. And we're women, so we're emotional, but
yes, we are emotional.
Doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
It was good.
I think I take health and wellness and the health and wellness of my family very seriously. And so I do get super emotional about it because we are dealing with some tough stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay. So you then came in, you started working in traction.
Yes.
And you're running traction. And then for those in the audience, if you go back to previous episodes, you've probably heard us talk about Courtney. I don't know if we talked about her by name, but we've talked about how we had this change in front desk and we had, a certain individual in the front desk before that just was younger and wasn't in it, wasn't a good fit. We should have pulled the plug a long time ago. They ended up pulling the plug first, which was fine. But Courtney ended up taking over the department in the clinic that was lacking, which is like the most important or like one of the most important departments in the clinic. So Courtney took over and literally our stats that we were looking at and watching for over the course of maybe 3 months come down. They immediately shot up like in a week. Okay. And like I said this before in these previous episodes, but I'll say it again. So what happened is our numbers were coming down. Because we have such great systems, I turned to Danny and I'm like, Danny, what's going on with number? And Danny's like, well, I'm looking at checklists and they're doing recalls, they're doing this, they're doing this. So she's seeing what the staff is reporting because we have a system where the staff reports on checklists what's happening. Danny's able to manage somewhat virtually or like hybrid office manager. We had a previous episode on that. So look that up. That's a good one. You'll better understand that. I'm not going to relive all that right now. And so essentially Danny was getting this info on her end that everything was happening. And it was almost like, well, I guess it's the economy. I guess it's people don't want to spend money. I guess it's this. And I didn't want to believe that, but I was starting to believe it. And I didn't want to believe it because I've done this. I mean, like in May of this next year, it'll be 20 years I've been in practice. So I've seen stuff. I've seen stuff with the economy. I've seen stuff ups and downs. I've practiced in different states. And it seems like it always comes back to that's not the answer. The answer is something broke down with systems. And in this case, I feel like it was someone reporting that they were doing something, but doing such a bare minimum.
Oh yeah, big time.
And such like no heart in it and no effort in it that the outcome was crap. And so it's like, we don't really care if someone just checks the boxes. We want a great outcome.
Right.
So we kept looking at it and saying, okay, well, how come our numbers are dropping? How come people aren't on the schedule? How come we're having to tighten our schedule more and more and more? What's going on? And we were starting to look into like, well, do I have to spend more time doing marketing? Yeah. And I haven't done marketing in years, right? Because we have primarily a referral practice, so which is great. So Courtney comes in and like literally in 1 week, it's like starts to go the other direction, which was awesome. And I mean, it's awesome for obvious reasons, but it's also awesome because it's like an immediate confirmation for Danny and myself of like, okay, systems are solid. The world's okay. It was that we didn't identify soon enough that someone was dropping the ball so hard. Lesson learned for all of us. Cause like we're busy, we're doing all this other stuff and we're looking through all the different metrics in the clinic and we're like, okay, everyone's checking their stuff off. Let's just roll with it. And then on to the next week. And you see this stuff trend down. And pretty soon, like from a standpoint of running a business, I mean, having the wrong person at the front desk literally costs like tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it tanks it. And you mentioned on your podcast with Jenna, the last one, you know, is it worth having just another body there or, you know, pulling the trigger and getting rid of that person and just dealing with it? So yeah, this was our aha moment that having an extra set of hands there is not worth it if the energy doesn't match.
So yeah, so like in other words, never again. If it gets to this point, which I'm so confident, you know, knocking on wood that it won't, because like our team is just awesome right now. You know, our newest team member is Caitlin. She seems to be doing good so far. But again, it's like everyone that's proven themselves who's there prior to Caitlin, I know is solid. Caitlin, I'm hoping is also solid, and all the signs are there that she is. Mm-hmm. Caitlin, if you're listening, I'm talking about you. But ultimately, if someone starts to slack off like that, and we address it, and we provide the resources, and it doesn't turn around, my advice to everyone out there is just literally change your schedule. Work more hours, see less patients if you have to, like do something, but maintain that high level of quality, maintain that great work environment for the existing people that you have in there, and get rid of that person who shouldn't be in there. Yeah. You know, and then run ads and interview and try to replace them, mm-hmm. but also don't just pick the first person that applies who's going to be another problem.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
So explain to us why you are not another problem, but you are the opposite.
I honestly feel there are a few different components, and I really hate talking about myself, like building it up.
Do it. Talk about yourself. But this one's all about you.
Yep. I think one of the main things is just kind of my personality and how that works in a front desk setting. So I am just a very organized person on my own.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, order.
I mean, like, I haven't gone to your house and seen this, but like, just from what I know, yeah, you seem very organized in your life.
Yes. I like order. I like knowing where things are. Like my kitchen, I could go in there blind and know exactly where everything is. Like, and so I just think that's important. And I think it's easy to get disorganized sometimes. And with
as you
everything,
look at my office, right? Don't judge me. From here is very clean. Okay.
Especially in how busy front desk gets sometimes. There are moments where there seem to just be papers everywhere, but even in chaos, I have organization, if that makes sense. Uh-huh. So I think the organization is really important. Also, just being a detail clarity person. Like I love details and I want to do things correctly, and I want you to explain things to me clearly, and I want to be able to explain things to you clearly so that everybody's on the same page. Mm-hmm. There's so many, it's so easy to get breakdowns in communication.
I want to stop you there and cover this and then come back and keep going. Danny, can you go through and explain or just recap, both of you, the training materials, the training process, because you started in traction and then you moved up to front desk because there was a need.
Yes.
Which also too, it was so great is you're like, I'll go wherever I'm needed. I'll help wherever, I'll learn whatever you need me to do.
Yes.
Which is great because we've had people in the past that are like, I will not do that.
Yeah.
You know, and right. And we're like, do you want a job?
Right.
You know? Like, we need you to do that. And it's weird that we're having to argue with you about this or feel like we have to like beg you to do the thing that we need you to do. So total like team player attitude right from the get-go. Hey, I'll help wherever I need to help. Hey, here's what I'd prefer to do, but I'm willing to help with whatever.
Yes.
And initially it was, I'm willing to help temporarily get the front desk up to speed. At some point that changed where you're like, I really like this and I want to make this my home. I want to stay here.
Yes.
So take us through the training, all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So initially, while Courtney was filling her 2 weeks at her previous office, we did the online training, which we've talked about before, where you go on, you watch the videos for our online training portal. A lot of it was for traction.
Yes.
When we decided to make that shift to front desk, Courtney was actually the first person that I pretty much 99.9% trained myself. I would not let our other front desk girls show her anything. And bless Emily's heart, but she needed to focus on functional movement.
Yes.
And so I asked Courtney to come to me with everything. I came in several times just to train on front desk. She's amazing at taking notes. And so I felt like she caught on super quick. And the days that I couldn't be there in the office and there were things that I needed to show you, like this morning, she would go watch my computer screens in the billing office when I'm remoted in.
That is a
see what I'm
great
doing.
thing to do.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then I would call her on the phone because we can't necessarily do Zoom all the time. So
Right.
you can see my computer screens when I'm remoted in and see exactly what I'm doing. So I would call her, she'd have me on speakerphone, and I would walk her through the processes of everything that I'm doing.
Yes.
This morning we did massage tracking and she picked it up. Our phone call was less than 5 minutes.
Yes, literally.
And so she picked it up and she did it herself. So Courtney is one that I trained myself, and I feel like she truly takes ownership of the front desk. So if something is not up to her standard, she will ask me, why do we do it this way? And I'll explain it to her. And if it clicks for her, she's like, okay, got it. Awesome.
Yeah.
If there's something to where she's like, well, can we do it this way? Or why don't we try it this way? Then we're open to it, and I'll talk to her about things. I told her the other day that don't be afraid to come to me and tell me things, because if I don't know, we can't evolve, and we're always evolving. So her feedback is amazing when it comes to things. So we either talk about why we do things a certain way, or we figure out how we can work in her ideas into what we're already doing. So that was Courtney's training process. A lot of it was in person, but then a lot of it, we figured out how to do it remotely. And I think it worked amazing.
Cool.
I think also one thing that was very helpful is that the office that I was at previously used ChiroTouch. So I already, even though I wasn't front desk at the other office, I did kind of know the basics of ChiroTouch, and that was helpful as well.
Cool. Okay. So a couple things that I'm hearing from this that I want to dive into or ask questions about. So one, just a little clarification for everyone listening to this, the training portal that Danny's referring to, we built a membership site in ClickFunnels, just like the membership site we use for Move Now University for doctors and their staff to get training materials and how to put their clinic together and run it, how we run it with our systems. We use that same platform, ClickFunnels. We built a membership site, which is just essentially you take a bunch of videos, you organize them, you have a username and a password to get access to it, and then you can put them in a certain learning sequence, which is really, really helpful for internal staff training. And so in Courtney's case, she had put her 2 weeks in at the other clinic, was kind of working part-time as she was phasing out, had time to come into the clinic, had time to log in remotely and be able to access videos and start learning. So that's a phenomenal way to train your staff. I would highly, highly recommend putting together something like that, because it makes the training process faster. And then you don't have to have someone go through every intricate detail over and over and over again with someone, but you can actually empower the staff to go and do it on their own, take notes, already have a foundation, then meet with someone like Danny. If you have, an office manager or a Danny type person in your clinic, to then fine tune it based on the foundation already.
Yes.
Okay. So it's like working smarter, not harder type thing.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the membership site. The second thing, or the question I have, How long have you been up at the front desk right now? What percentage do you think you are at as far as training wise, and how, well, I guess you'll tell me how long you've been there so we'll know how long it took to get to that point.
Yeah. I've been at the front desk for 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not that long.
No.
Okay.
I feel like basic front desk stuff is pretty there. I think now I'm kind of delving into what else can I do?
Yeah.
What extra?
Yeah, because you're doing insurance verifications.
Yes.
And so basic front desk is greeting people, checking in, checking out, answer phones, scheduling, handling objections, calling for backup if you need more people to help
Yes.
at a certain instant. Yeah.
Kind of dealing with new patient paperwork, the filing of all the things into people's accounts in CaroTouch.
And also the flow of the clinic, rooming.
Yes.
Okay.
That was probably the thing I was most nervous about. And that was, I feel like I had to learn the most because I had not experienced that before.
How about we talk about, from your perspective, so other chiropractors can hear this as well, because this is a common question they ask us when you have a clinic like ours, where it's like 3 clinics in one. You have specific chiropractic. In our clinic, we do Gonstead, right? We're doing specific chiropractic, meaning, every single time we see someone, we're checking them. So we check them with a meter, we palpate on the skin. Females have a gown on, guys have the shirt off. We're checking them. We got their x-rays up. We're adjusting them. So specific chiropractic, that's my definition of specific. Not just a flying 7, which is hit them high, hit them low, roll them twice, let them go. I'm not a huge fan of that. Like, I'm not saying other chiropractors have to do Gonstead, just have a specific approach. Okay. Because patients understand that too. They'll know if you're just doing generic, same thing to every single person. And I firmly believe it changes your results. So I'm going to practice like that until the day I die. Yeah. All right. So anyway, back to the 3 parts of the clinic. So we have specific chiropractic, we have rehab as far as curve correction, and then functional movement.
Yes.
So other chiropractors ask, well, how do you do that? How do you flow that process? How do you keep track of it? All of that. So now you've learned this because you're doing it.
Yes.
And you've been in the clinic now for 6 weeks in the front. And then how long were you in traction for?
6 weeks.
You were 6 weeks in traction and 6 weeks in the
Yes.
front. So
I've been
exactly
there 3
50-50 right now.
Yes.
Okay. So you've been there 3 months. And so take through our audience what the flow of the clinic looks like for a existing patient who's already has a care plan put together. They're going through a daily visit. Let's say they're on visit number 10. Okay. How does that work when they walk through the door?
Sure. So a person on visit 10 in our clinic, there's still going to be an EAT plus FM generally.
Which means what?
So they're going to get exercises, adjustment, traction, and they're going to do functional movement.
So that's what EAT plus FM, that's like our code for it. Keep in mind, not everyone knows our language. but and truthfully, EAT is a chiropractic biophysics thing. Like, that's where I was introduced to that little acronym. Is it an acronym? Yeah. Right. Yeah. So EAT, EAT, right? The EAT plus FM or EAT plus MT, manual therapy, or EAT plus MW3, which is a movement assessment, or EAT plus re-exam, obviously re-exam, or EAT plus x-ray, so like those are all the combinations. In some cases, we even have people that do EA.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just like just exercise and adjustment. They're not doing traction because maybe they're not a candidate for traction. They don't have to do it. They just do more exercise. Okay. So someone comes in, EAT plus FM. What's that mean? What's the physical movement of that person?
Yes. So honestly, that can vary day to day, depending on what the overall schedule looks like. Because I want a good flow and I don't want people waiting, I try to make sure that if they can get back to you and get adjusted first, as long as they're okay with that, then we keep you rolling, keep you on a steady schedule so that people aren't waiting to get adjusted.
I'm gonna keep interrupting you every time you say something that someone in the audience
absolutely
isn't gonna know. But I'm gonna try not to take you off track so you can stay on track. So maybe as I do that, Danny can be like our court stenographer, right? So she can make sure she can play it back. Oh, you were here. Okay, pick it up. So she said, if I'm okay with that. And she said, if I'm okay with that, because some patients really prefer to warm up first before they get adjusted. They do better warming up before they get adjusted. and in a lot of cases clinically, it makes sense for someone to warm up before they get adjusted. Okay. Warm up doesn't mean go through all their exercises.
Right.
Because technically, clinically, like per the science of how it works, is when you get adjusted, you are improving joint position to an extent, but mostly motion of a joint. You're stimulating the nervous system.
Right.
And to capitalize on that improvement that you just made in someone, if you can have them do a majority of their exercise after they get adjusted, that reinforces that gain.
Okay.
And then that person actually has a longer lasting result. Okay. So,
Awesome.
so like technically the EAT, exercise adjustment traction,
Yes.
really it's like a little bit of E,
Yeah.
A, the rest of the E, and then
T.
and then T, right? So traction last. And the reason that we do traction last is primarily because after traction, someone might be a little stiff or sore. They're icing after traction, and after you ice, you're kind of like cooled your body down to then go back and start moving again. You know, in some cases, if someone has traction and they get stiff and sore and they leave, you know, hurting, then we'll actually have them do a little bit of warm up stuff after traction. It's rare. It's not really needed all that often, but ultimately it's E, A, E, T. And really it's E, A, E, F, M, T.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then leave.
And then leave.
Right. So it's a little bit of like zigging and zagging, but patients learn it. And so like, you know, like it might sound chaotic to the audience. It goes very smoothly.
It does.
And it's just a patient, you know, being taken by the hand and learning the process first. And then like you're saying, it's playing around with it a bit so that the patient doesn't have to wait at the front desk
Yes.
and sit in a chair and do nothing.
Correct.
When we have 60 to 90 minutes of stuff mapped out for them.
Yes.
We don't want to waste time.
No, not at all.
Okay, so take me back to that. So
Yes, okay.
the flow of the clinic.
So then I get them back into the room with you so that they're getting adjusted. We're staying on schedule. But most oftentimes they will come in, we'll send them back to exercise, FM, functional movement. And they will start their exercises, and then I will put in chat, which chat is so amazing. It just keeps all of us
What is
so
chat?
connected in the clinic. So
What's chat?
Chat messenger is what we use to everybody at a computer. There is one in every part of the clinic, and that is what we use to all stay connected with each other, and so that everyone in the clinic knows what's going on with everybody else.
So there's lots of computers. I think we have 11 computers, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a lot of computers.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
And all of those are not in use all the time.
Right, because like in the consultation room and the billing
Correct.
office and that sort of
Yes.
thing. But like in the main areas, we have 2 front desk computers.
Yes.
We have 1 in traction.
Yes.
We have
one in FM.
1 in FM. We have 1 in both adjusting rooms
Yes. One in X-ray.
and 1 in X-ray. And those are the main ones we're communicating on.
Yes.
And then we have 2 in the billing office,
Yes.
Right.
And 2 in the consult rooms.
and then 2 in the 2 consult rooms.
And then the bat cave.
And then,
Oh, yeah.
And then the bat cave, which is like our storage room that we turn into a little workstation, which is in between my adjusting room and FM, our exercise area. Okay. So back to that. So everyone listening to this can try to visualize. Even if you're watching us, you're going to have to visualize because I don't have a diagram of it. But maybe in a future episode, we'll show a diagram up on the screen and we'll take you
Yeah.
through the
Oh,
flow of how
yeah,
a
that'd
patient
be
goes
cool.
through.
That would.
Yeah.
We should do that.
So yes. So chat is amazing. So everyone can know. So I'm keeping track of the flow. I'm keeping track of who's been seen by you, who's now in what part of the clinic, which sounds very difficult and intimidating. And in the beginning it can be. But once you learn it, it just becomes part of your brain. Like you just understand how the best way for everyone to get through the clinic. So they come back and see you, they're doing exercise. I put that in chat. We have 3 dressing rooms. I'm sorry. And so I will put so-and-so room 1. And if they are in the back, you can hear the ding of the chat as it comes through. So you know that it's gone through. And I kind of look back in the window, and Emily is amazing back in FM. She's so on it. As soon as she hears that ding, she's looking at the computer to see, and she'll be like, so-and-so room 1, and she'll get them their card and they go to room 1.
Awesome. Yeah. So dressing rooms also too, if you're not familiar, in our clinic, since we do Gonstead, we have 3 dressing rooms, or, you know, some people call them feeder rooms. We don't call them feeder rooms because we don't want our staff to say feeder rooms. And
That sounds weird.
And then it sounds like we are like herding cattle.
Yes.
So there are changing rooms or dressing rooms that go into a single adjusting room. And that's because in Gonstead, we're putting a gown on a female patient from the waist up, opens in the back, or male patients pulling the shirt off so we can check them on the surface of the skin. Patients really like that system. You know, some other chiropractors who aren't familiar with it think that a patient might feel intimidated by, oh, I have to put a gown on, or a male patient, I have to take my shirt off. It's private in the room. We have a big one-way window so I can see out into the traction area. No one can see in, so the patient has total privacy. Jenna, who was on our last episode, who is my assistant, new patient coordinator, does a lot of stuff. Jenna's in the room with me most of the time as a scribe. So I have a female in the room with me, which I think is a smart thing to do in today's day and age with seeing female patients because, you know, like the vast majority of our patients are super cool, like 95% are super cool, but there's still crazy people out there and people accuse people of stuff. And if you have a female staff person in there with a male doctor, that's good insurance. That's a smart thing. And Jen is running the computer. And also, it's super rare we ever have a male patient that feels self-conscious of having their shirt off in front of Jenna as well. So these are some of the questions that chiropractors ask me sometimes that maybe our staff doesn't really think about these little things, but like these are all the little nuances that maybe other chiropractors worry about. And that's why they do open adjusting.
Right.
Or that's why they have like 3 different adjusting rooms and they're jumping from room to room to room, which technically I don't think is a great use of space because now you have 3 sets of equipment, 3 computers, 3 everything instead of 1.
Or finances.
Well,
all of that equipment gets expensive.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. Yeah. Now, granted, in our clinic, we didn't really spare any expense in our clinic. I mean, it's decked out, but yes, because at one point, you know, our exercise area used to be another adjusting room with 3 changing rooms going into that one. And
Did it really?
Yeah. And I went in with a patient of mine and a couple of our staff, started Friday morning, and we demoed the whole thing ourselves.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that.
I have a fast motion video of that.
Okay. That would be cool.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. We literally cut the wall out, pulled all the rooms out, flattened that whole thing, took everything to the trash place, and then put flooring down, painted the walls, did drywall work, fixed the ceiling, moved everything from David's side, which was our old exercise area, to that. So essentially what we did is we had a bigger exercise area next door. Like at the time, our clinic was 5,200 square feet. Now we operate out of about 3,300 square feet. Now, granted, next door, we use a massage room. We have a staff break room, but the rest of that, David, who was our old exercise therapist, we'll probably have him on a podcast at some point too. We've never had David on before. We should do that. David was exercise therapist for close to 3 years, and he was a personal trainer. He wanted to build his personal training business. We didn't want him to leave. So he kind of transitioned slowly, and then he ended up taking over the lease for the space next door. And he has his business there, and a lot of our patients is what feeds that business that helps him, helps our patients. You know, it's super cool across the board. So it's awesome.
I also work out with him, and he's amazing.
Oh yeah. Cool. Yeah. And so where was I going with that? Yeah. So essentially we had this big, massive space, and this also falls into questions that chiropractors have us sometimes for us is like, how much room do you need for an exercise area? How many patients can you see at a single time? We had a massive exercise area before, and it was so far away from the front desk and there was walls in the way. Yes, we used chat, but before your time, we had a staff person that their position was called ATC, which stood for Air Traffic Controller.
Yes.
And that person was back like on David's side, at a workstation. Patients would be sitting back there instead of at the front desk.
Okay.
And they'd be sitting back there on couches. And then she would direct them where to go as far as what room. The problem is there was lots of room for things to get messed up because we had more staff, we had more space, we had harder to communicate. We had thought about at one point of us all wearing headsets and talking on like walkie-talkies. I think we tried that for a day, and that was crazy. And everyone's talking at the same time. And so ultimately, after we ran like that for a couple of years, we decided to downsize and get rid of one of the adjusting rooms, and then put Dr. Zach's adjusting room up front. And you know, as you know, he and I have some overlapping hours. We have some opposing hours. On the opposing hours, he uses my adjusting room, so he's got access to that larger adjusting room. Right. And on the other hours, he uses the other one. It works just fine. And the flow works.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And like having that exercise area where you at the front desk can look through that little window,
Yes.
you know, from the front desk. And then you can look through that cutout, which that used to be a one-way window as well.
I'm very grateful it's not anymore.
Right. But just looking over there, and then you can see Emily or Paul or whoever's back there working with patients.
Yes.
So, like, imagine if the exercise area was on the other side of a wall.
I'd rather not.
Yeah. That's how it was for a while. And that was a good learning experience for us, that a bigger clinic doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to flow smoother. And,
Yes.
and granted, I mean, based on what kind of volume you're doing and whatnot, like that kind of dictates, but for right now, how we're running, it works awesome. We see plenty of patients and they get good, thorough care. We have great flow, great communication. It's rare someone's waiting for more than a few minutes if they're an established patient.
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a clear distinction. I've had quite a few patients come up to me and say, you know, just how since I started, kind of just the vibe of the office is different.
Yeah, totally.
And the flow is better. They don't feel like they're waiting.
Yeah. Well, and that's, and just to clarify, like, our last front desk gal that was up there was just couldn't focus on more than one thing at a time. So it's like if a patient was in front of her, she was like tractor beam sucked in, and there could be like a fire going on 5 feet away and she wouldn't see it, you know, like I'd be up there about to walk in with a new patient or something in a consult, and I'd be like waving my arms like, hey, is the paperwork here? And it's like
nothing,
you know? And so imagine the patient sitting there that are waiting to get room. They're getting no attention at all. How frustrating that would be. And then you go, and then you flip that to like the polar opposite, where like you're up there super aware, you know, acknowledging people. So
I try.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the new hire that you talked about, Caitlin, she's kind of been shadowing me at the front desk.
Yeah.
And she has made comments where she's like just watching me with giant eyes. And she's like, I just watched you schedule a patient, check out a patient, answer the phone, room someone all at the same time.
Well, good.
And I was like, well, I mean, I got to do what I got to do.
Good. And then you have, and then you should just respond and say, that is my expectation of you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
and I do have faith in her. So
Yeah, no, it's good. And it's cool that she can see that it's possible, so that she doesn't turn to Danny and be like, you have unrealistic expectations for me. This is crazy. And you're like, Courtney's trained you and she's done this in front of you. So like now you know it's possible. Like, like she's the human one. She's the one that's part cyborg. So
But I think it's helped that I did majority of your training,
Yes.
because in the past, when we've let another front desk person train a new front desk person, it's usually because they're on their way out.
Right.
And they can't help but speak their frustrations.
for sure.
And so the fact that I've trained you,
Yes.
I don't think I've said one
Oh no.
bad thing about anything.
No.
And so, you know, just kind of going through things with you,
Yeah.
that you find ease in it, and you've done it so well. And now that you're training Caitlin, I have faith in you to be able to train her the way I trained you.
Yes.
So I think that has definitely helped a lot.
And I also always will end everything I tell Caitlin with double check with Danny. Because like at the end of the day, I do feel pretty confident in what I'm teaching her, but I also just want to make sure that the way that I'm portraying it is the way that you want it portrayed.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So moral of the story, don't let disgruntled people on their way out train new hires.
yeah.
Yeah. You know, sometimes there's staff that have been there for a long time and they're good and they're great, but their effort and focus isn't necessarily on training a new person because
Right.
they've got another department that they're trying to take care of
Absolutely.
as well. And so it's kind of, we found a lot of corners that were cut
Yes.
in certain things. And so me being able to train with you and be like, perfect example, we don't do that. This is how we do it.
Yes.
And then I've even gone through and made you guys like a little SOS book.
Oh, it's been amazing.
So if you guys find yourself in a position to where you're like, shoot, how do we navigate through this? Instead of, you know, texting me or calling me, and I'm always on chat too.
Yes.
Instead of doing that, you guys can reference that SOS book really quick,
Yes.
find your answer, and then come to me later and be like, hey, we need to train on this.
Right.
So
Right. Absolutely.
And so Danny mentioned that she's always on chat. You know, keep in mind, everyone, there's chat going on in our clinic. So each computer station has a little chat box, and we have 2 chat boxes. We have a group chat and we have a rooming chat, essentially, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so in the group one, that's where we can talk about other stuff. In the rooming one, it's all about where is a patient in the clinic.
Yes.
Danny has that open on her computer while she's doing billing stuff and doing other stuff at home and doing stuff with Move Now at home. She's like always got that in the background. Yeah. And so if there's an issue, she can chime in and help with something remotely. We covered that in a previous episode when we dove into how Danny does this hybrid office manager position. But I mean, in today's day and age with technology and everything that we have, like, take advantage of it. It's not like it's all that far-fetched for pretty much everyone that's listening to us right now to probably operate like this in some extent.
Yeah, because I can get back to you in the same amount of time,
Yes.
either on chat or on the phone, as I would if I was there in person.
Oh, 100%. And I think maybe some of that is just technology, and I think some of that is just you being amazing. She literally is available anytime I need her. And hopefully my goal is to not need you as much, as amazing as you are. But I mean, text, chat, anything I have a question on, if I need to call you real quick, you are right there. And that is, I think it's important as front desk because it can be a little intimidating, especially as someone who wasn't front desk before.
Yep.
To know you have that support. And it's not like, oh, I'm putting you at the front desk. Good luck.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure. And a last thing to mention that I think is a really important thing to take to heart, because we didn't always think about it like this. The front desk position is not necessarily a starting position for someone. It's not a easy position like, oh, you start at front desk and then you move up. It's kind of like front desk is like you're running the clinic.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a very important position, and really, it requires a greater skill set. And I think it's so great that you started in traction and then went to front desk, because you understand the clinical flow of things very well.
Yes.
And so something that we're planning to do is have you start doing re-exams as well, helping with that.
Yes.
Possibly with some x-ray stuff too, right?
Yes, because I did do x-rays at my old clinic.
Okay. Yeah. So doing x-ray too. So like as Caitlin gets better trained, you're then doing that. And then, you know, at some point in the future, Jenna, you know, is trying to start a family and get pregnant. So at some point she's going to get pregnant, and then it'll like all fall into place where then Jenna can be doing stuff more, you know, like if she has to do some level of remote work or, you know, lower running around work type stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe Jenna goes and sets up at the front desk. Who knows? Even though the last episode, Jenna's like, I don't think I'd be able to do the front desk, which is funny. So yeah, it truly is matching someone's skill set to a position.
Yes.
Like Jenna's excellent at her stuff that she does, but she'll openly say, I don't think I would be that good at front desk. I mean, granted, I think that the team that we have, if they liked and they were passionate about any position in the clinic, I think they're more than capable of mastering it. But I also want to put people where they want to be.
Yes.
You know, because it's like, you know, hey, it's great that you were willing to, hey, I'll cover at the front, but that's not really what I want to be. But it's even cooler that you're like, I want to be there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I do appreciate that in the beginning, because you guys were like, hey, we really need someone to cover this. Are you okay with that? And in the beginning, I did make very clear, like, I don't want to be front desk. I will do this because I am a team player. And you guys were like, great, we're going to try finding someone. We will get you out of there as soon as we can, because you wanted to accommodate me. And that I did appreciate that.
But we appreciate you stepping up and doing it.
I
So
appreciate
thanks.
you wanting to stay at
Yeah.
the front desk.
So I don't think we touched on this, but, and maybe we did and I didn't hear it, but what was the piece that made you change your mind of saying, okay, this isn't just a temporary thing, but I really like being up here?
Yeah. I think how Danny kind of touched on, like, I seem to take ownership of the front desk. And I actually enjoyed that more than I thought I would. And I do feel like that's my area. Like, I am in control of who's going where. And I feel like it's important. To be honest, at the last clinic that I worked at, because we weren't having all of these intricate pieces, front desk, she was not happy there either, because she was known as the high girl. Like that was like her job. She
Like,
didn't really schedule people. No, like the hi.
Oh, gotcha.
Just supposed to be
I'm
this
like smoking-
completely like
Smoking weed at work type thing. Wow. That's very, very open-minded. No.
not in Idaho.
If you go to Oregon.
Yeah.
She was just supposed to be this very bubbly, all the time person, and that's literally all her only job was to just greet people as they came in.
A Walmart greeter.
And yes, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I enjoyed working with the patients and doing something that I felt was important. And now that I've been up at front desk and I see all of the intricacies of what we do and how important it is to the clinic, I'm like, okay, I can still make a difference here.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Jenna's taking exams of people. Paul and Emily are back in FM teaching people exercises, but I'm getting people in the clinic
Yes.
Yeah.
to be seen. And so,
Yeah. And handling if something goes wrong and maybe saving the day,
Yes.
which we can talk about. But so a thought on this, just to summarize and kind of put some words to what Courtney, I think, is saying, is that her epiphany of front desk is a place that I could be at more of a long-term thing and be my thing, is because she saw how important it was. She saw that she was a leader in her own role. This is a thing that Danny's always talking about, is like getting everyone to be a leader in their own role. She saw how important her role is, how well she's doing with it, and how it affects everything else in the clinic. And that was satisfying, because that's such a huge level of accomplishment.
yes.
And so like daily satisfaction and like coming into the clinic each day and being like, I'm ready to take on this shift and master it and do great. And then at the end of the shift, you see everything go smoothly and things are great and you overcame objections and you balance stuff.
Yeah.
And then now it's probably cool because you got Caitlin there and she's like, you know, she's like your fan and she's like, oh, you did great. Good job. And you're like, yeah, high five, right?
Yeah. Not bad.
Right. So now it's someone who, like, you know, who can be right next to you and appreciate
seeing the nitty gritty,
the juggling of things and doing it and managing it. So, okay. And then let's talk about maybe some of the things, I guess, like handling objections wise and stuff, because now granted, we try to operate in such a way with everything that we do in our clinic and with Move Now University systems to be steps ahead of objections, to be a couple steps ahead, to cover the bases so objections don't happen, or we address them before they happen. But every once in a while, you got people you just can't make them happy in every sense, or they just want to complain, or we have to better understand them and, you know, acknowledge, speak to their emotion that's causing them to say a certain thing that maybe they're misstepping and they're saying something. You got to put it in perspective for them, make it their idea where they come around. Yeah, I guess so. I guess you're right. You know, like for example, just last week, there was a newer patient of ours who, you know, the first couple visits that someone's in the clinic, they're going to be sometimes waiting a few minutes longer because they don't have their whole care plan mapped out yet. They're in the first couple visits. The first couple visits are the visits where they're meeting with a doctor primarily. And so now they are unfortunately held hostage to my schedule. If I had a patient that was acute or set me behind, or someone that had more questions that I had to handle, they might have to wait 5 minutes extra, 10 minutes extra. But that's the first couple of visits, because once you put a game plan together, we have so many things for a patient to do on a daily visit that they can move around and be occupied and be doing, you know, very productive things in their visit and not have to sit at the front desk waiting on a chair.
Right.
This patient wasn't to that point yet. I think she was explained that. I was talking to Danny about, you know, hey, this is a great training opportunity to even emphasize that more of, you know, taking a person like that maybe has more of a type A personality, of which I don't even know if that's an accurate representation of this specific person I'm thinking of, but just trying to be a couple steps ahead and predict what someone is thinking. Like, what are they not saying, but what's the energy that they're giving to you? And I know our last front desk gal, it's like, I mean, people could be sitting there at the front desk, like staring at you, like, you know, they're pissed off and just, she had the ability just to completely ignore them. You know?
I do not have that ability.
You know? Versus like, it's so much easier just to acknowledge it and just say, hey, I can totally tell you're frustrated. I get it. I apologize. Here's what happened. Thank you so much for being patient. And that takes someone from like, and they're like, oh, and now you just bought 10 more minutes and now they're,
absolutely.
now they're happy.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
So what was my question? Start off. Oh, so like, I guess taking us through some of the objections or things that you hear, maybe when someone's on the phone or in person. And granted, I know you're 3 months into this whole thing. So it's like every day is going to teach you something new and there's going to be more and more to learn, you know, even though I think you're doing a fantastic job at it now. What are things you deal with? Maybe even talk about some objections that you want to get better at, and we can cover a couple of those on our podcast too.
Okay. This is funny. Actually, one just happened yesterday. Not necessarily that I think I need to do better on, but one I think that went well. So we had a patient text in, and he said, I have another appointment across town at 6:00. His appointment was for 5. And he said, I would like to do an adjustment only. I'm not going to have time for services. And I could have texted back and said,
services mean like the other rehab, like traction and functional movement
Sorry.
and all this. And then just a side question real quick. Was this someone who's like in an established care plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So like if someone's in an established care plan, we've done a whole financial projection for them. Let's say they've prepaid for care, or they're doing monthly payments, or they have insurance that's going on. If they do an adjustment only visit in the middle of a care plan, it kind of messes stuff up, not just for them clinically, but also like structurally how their appointments are set up. So it's not ideal for someone to come in and just do an adjustment only if they're in that. Correct. If someone has to do that, honestly, in most cases, what we'd probably do is charge them for that adjustment only and not have that offset any of their corrective care.
Correct.
And then their next visit they come in is now their next corrective care visit. They just had an adjustment in between there to kind of keep them going.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So I could have easily just texted back and said, totally understand, things come up, we'll get you in. But this particular patient I know has done this twice before. And so I pulled out his card. I double checked what I thought, and I was correct. And this is where I think another important personality trait comes in at front desk. I am a very empathetic person, and I care about chiropractic. I care about what people pay for and what their outcomes should and could be. And so I wrote back to him and I said, hey, so-and-so, this is the 3rd time that this has happened. Is there any way that you could come in a little earlier to complete those full services? And then going forward, do we need to get you in at a different day and time so that you can complete that? Because you're straying from the doctor's recommendations, and that is going to affect the outcome that you need and that you want.
You said it all in a text?
I did.
That's a long text.
And he wrote back and he said, you know what? I can come in earlier. I'll see you in a little bit.
Boom. Awesome.
And he came in and he completed his full services.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would say to handle it. So that's perfect. So good job.
Thanks. But I think that that's important, is that I didn't take the easy way out, and I wasn't rude. I wasn't pushy. I just kind of held him accountable a little bit.
Well, and it's being consistent.
Yeah.
So oftentimes what happens is that a patient will test the waters. Like they sit down with one of the doctors, whether Dr. Zach or myself. We go through care recommendations. Our process of how we take someone through, and I'll try to give you a bird's eye view of this just quickly, kind of like how it works. Patient comes in with said health problem. They let their spine go to crap. Okay. They come in with problem. They come in for us to check them out. We say, do you want us to fix your problem? Do you want us to teach you what you can do to help fix your problem? Do you want to change your life and transform and have this be the fork in the road where things improve and you're empowered and you look back and you say, this is one of the most important decisions I ever made. I'm so glad I made it. Or do you want us to just be another expensive aspirin / chiropractor that's just going to do pain relief stuff only? 99% of the time, people are like, I want to get this fixed.
Yeah.
But here's my objections. We work through their objections. We do that. We do all the heavy lifting on the front end. We then present the patient to you with like, here's what the person wants to do. I've already handled all this stuff,
Absolutely.
right? So if that person starts to backpedal and have some kind of objection now at the front, or anyone else in the clinic, all they have to do is be like, oh, Dr. Todd told me you wanted to do X, Y, and Z, and now you're saying this. Well, that's different than what I was told. Has something changed? I can go talk to him. And then a lot of times the patients are like, oh, no, you're right. Because now you just called them out and held them accountable.
Right.
That's what you have to do. if you can even take it further like you did, and you're like, hey, this is the third time this has happened. And how about this as a better solution? Why don't you come in earlier? You can still get the care that you need so that it doesn't affect your progress. Because if we affect your progress, it's going to screw up your results. And that's not why you're here, right? You're not here to screw up your results. You want great results. That's what I want for you too. So how about we do this, right? Yeah. And it's like giving them a better option. And then they say in response, yep, you're right. So patient comes in, their health goes to crap. We give them options. They say, I want to fix it. And now all we're doing is holding them accountable and motivating them and keeping them going, keep them on the path to fix these things.
Right.
And if we give in and make it easy when they're testing to see, the doctor speaks this.
Right.
Is the staff congruent? Are they consistent with it? Does the staff really believe what the doctor's saying? Is what the doctor's saying even what he really believes? Because if he really believed it, certainly his staff would believe it. I mean, the staff's with him all the time. Maybe he's a charlatan and he's saying this and the staff knows he's full of crap and I'm going to get the truth through the staff. You know, like these are the different dimensions, I think, that subconsciously go on with a patient.
Yes.
When they call and they're like, hey, it's easier for me just to cancel my appointment. Guess what? It's also easier for you to eat junk food. It's easier for you to sleep in. It's easier for you not to exercise. It's like lots of steps easier, but you're not doing this because it's easier or necessarily convenient.
Yep.
You're doing this because you want to reach a higher level of excellence. You hired us to do that. And I would be failing at my job if I didn't hold you accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how I look at it, even though I'm just the front desk, really, like, I don't think there is a just the front desk because it's like all of us as a team are on the same level as far as the importance in taking that patient through the journey. Now, do we all have different roles and different hierarchies in what we do? Of course. Yeah.
But as far as from a patient standpoint of keeping them going, there's going to be times that you're vastly more important in that moment than I could be because I'm not there. I'm not hearing what they're telling you. Maybe they're telling you something that they don't want to tell me.
Right.
And now you're handling it like a boss, which is good.
Yep.
That's huge.
Yeah. Other objections, I guess, that we commonly get, I mean, honestly, with work is probably the most.
Right.
And this is new, I think, for me to deal with personally, because at the chiropractic office that I previously went to and the one that I previously worked at, we were not offering, patients did not have to come for 60 to 90 minutes. It was like a 5 to 10 minute thing. So it was easy to fit into someone's day.
And just like a little change of language, patients did not have to come. I would say patients didn't get the opportunity to go through such a thorough level of care, which takes time because we're so incredibly thorough and we're actually saving them a tremendous amount of time instead of having to drive to 3 different clinics all around town, and we're saving them money and they get to do it under one roof. The other patients didn't have that opportunity.
Absolutely.
See how it's a totally different?
Yeah. It is.
Right.
Okay. I love that.
Okay.
So I do find, I think, the time constraint to be a little bit more difficult. Our end of the day is filling up because people are trying to get it in after work. More people are kind of like 9 to 5ers.
I'm totally good to see patients at 5 a.m. if you are.
Yeah. I actually prefer morning.
Do it. Start at 5 a.m. I've been wanting to do that forever.
Danny's like, I'm out.
I would. Well, it's okay. I mean, Danny doesn't really have to be available at 5 a.m. most of the time, but
I am, but
yeah. I mean, she could be for a little bit of it. No, I mean, so side note, little fun fact, like one of my mentors in chiropractic, Dr. Bo Warlick, he was one of the Gonstead instructors at the Gonstead seminars back when I was in chiropractic school. And I followed him and I thought I was going to intern and work for him in Arizona. That space was full when I wanted to do my internship. That's why I ended up going to New Mexico with Dr. Mike Rosenblum. Those guys, best friends, went to school together and whatnot. So anyway, I went out with Bo Warlick. He worked in Sun Valley, which is like primarily like a retirement community in Arizona. And so I remember I went out there to like observe with him, and I had observed with all these chiropractors all over the country, and they'd be like, yeah, show up to the clinic at 8:30 a.m. So Dr. Warlick tells me, and I'm like 20 years old in chiropractic school and just, driving state to state, on my 2-week break between trimesters to observe and try to get as much information as I could. He's like, be at the clinic at 4:30. And I'm like, what? I've never even woken up that early before because this is like, I never woke up that early before. So we show up, to the clinic, it was like 4:30 and he's opening the clinic. His front desk person showed up a little bit after he did. And we're hanging out there. We hung out, nice and relaxed. And I think 5:00 is when he started. And he had all these older patients come in.
Yeah.
And I remember it's still dark outside. And I'll never forget, I remember he was setting up to adjust this older patient. And he always like joked around with his patients. And he says, "Don't go turning the dust on me." And then he adjusts them. Anyway, it was funny. So, little side note, it is possible to see patients that early in the morning. I haven't done it yet. We don't live in a retirement community here necessarily.
Right.
But man, there's less traffic.
I know.
It'd be so much easier. And I'm totally for it. I know Jenna said if she had to, she would, but she wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got your vote that you're in for it. I'm not sure how Emily's going to feel about that.
I'm just saying, like, your 7:30 slot on Thursday mornings, people actually are like, wow, yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, people prefer the early mornings right before they get, their true day started.
For sure.
Yeah. Like on the flip side, this other chiropractor who is an instructor for CBP, Dr. Pete Lope, he's out in New Jersey. He, for years, he probably still does this. His hours in his clinic are the exact opposite. He'll work in the morning for a couple hours. Mm-hmm. He'll take like a 6-hour break throughout the day.
Yeah.
And then he'll come back, I think at like 4 or 4:30 and go until like 8:30.
Yeah. A lot of chiropractic offices that I've been to or looked up on Google, their hours are very split shift. And I just think from a employee standpoint,
it's hard.
That's
it's hard.
difficult.
Yeah, because you're wrapped up all day. Well,
right.
we used to do that back in the day too. And that's like for years. I mean, the whole time our clinic was open, even out here until the last couple of years, I worked split shifts. So I'd work in the morning. We'd have like a 2 or 3 hour break in the middle of the day. We would try to tell our staff, like, look at it nice, like in a good way. You can go to the gym, you can go grocery shopping, but like most of the time people are like just not wired like that.
Right.
It's hard to break it up and then come back to work again.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get more to like a single longer shift because I knew it would be easier on the staff as well. So that's what we did is we started doing these like 6 or 7 hour just work straight through shifts.
Yeah.
And as much as sometimes those are a marathon, it's like, I think it's way better.
Yeah.
And so that's how we do
patients
it.
love it too. I mean, we have a packed schedule when
really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, going from 12 to 7, like I'd rather go 12 to 7.
yeah.
Right.
And work 7 hours straight, then come in for 3 hours, take a 3 hour break, come back for 4 hours.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, lots of different ideas we gave people. I'm not even sure if we completed our thought when we talked about the flow of how a patient goes to the
I don't know
clinic.
either.
But so I guess with that, how about we round out the flow,
Okay.
and then we can round out this episode because we're already. This will be our longest episode ever.
Oh boy.
So far, which is good, by about 7 minutes, maybe 6 minutes over. Okay, so flow, patient comes in, front desk, depending on the flow of the clinic, depends on where they go, but let's say you then have their travel card, which is a physical document. Yes, we use some physical paper in the clinic still. We talked about this last episode quite a bit with Jenna, so go back and listen to that one. You hand them that.
Yes.
You tell them where to go.
Yes.
They sign in on the iPad.
Yes.
They go back to exercise, warm up a little bit. Now Emily in the back or Paul in the back might say, hey, go to room 2.
Yep.
They go to room 2. They come in, put a card through the slot in the door. If it's a guy, they pull the shirt off. Female, she's got a gown, puts it on in the back. From the waist up, they put the card through. I open the door. Jen is in with me, pull the card, have the x-rays up, check them. Hey, how's it going? Anything changed since last visit? I'm checking them. I'm looking out the one-way window in traction to see if I need to see anything, focusing on the patient, looking back at Jenna, and then laser focused on the patient. They get adjusted. They go back in the room. And then typically when they come out of the room, 99% of the time, we're just sending them to go back to exercise.
Correct.
They go back to exercise. Emily or Paul are waiting for them. They continue on what they're doing and then finish up an exercise, send them over to traction.
Yes.
Right. And then they ice after traction. Now they come up to the front desk again.
Yes.
And in the ideal situation, they just high five you and walk out the door.
Yes.
Because
That
they're already
is
pre-scheduled.
dream world.
They're already pre-scheduled. They already have some kind of payment option that's taken care of.
Yes.
So, right? Did I summarize the flow?
Absolutely. And yeah,
Okay.
I would say as a front desk person, another tip, the more that you can get someone to schedule out at the beginning of their care plan that they sign on for and pay for it, the easier your life will be.
And it sets a precedent for that person of here's how we do things in our clinic.
Correct.
So like if you let it slide, if you let anything slide with a patient, kind of like a child, you're teaching them incorrectly. And so I'm not saying this like our patients are children. I'm saying all adults are children.
Absolutely.
For the most part. You know, it's like to an extent, and I'm not saying this in a condescending way, like, you know, adults are just kids in big bodies. And so our brains work in a similar fashion that if we are programmed to be able to do things, get away with things, that becomes our norm. Now changing that 3 weeks in is much harder to do.
Yes.
Yep, you're creating bad habits in the beginning. And then another good thing is if a patient doesn't schedule out, or say they're a maintenance patient or something like that, and they're paying at the time of service, it's smart to handle all of those things before they go back.
Yes,
because they will
that too.
sneak out on you if you don't do it in the beginning. And so you're kind of holding them accountable too. Like, you need to take care of this before you come back. And so that is another thing that I think you've gained control of because it wasn't being done before.
Right.
And then people, they snuck out on me. Nobody sneaks out the door. Like they don't do that. So you handling that in the beginning is huge.
And it also, when you kind of set that up at the beginning of their visit, if there is some kind of pushback, I'm able to put in chat, hey, so-and-so is giving you pushback on scheduling. And then Jenna can kind of mention it to you, and you bring it up in the room so that it's coming from the doctor. Hey, you know, we really want to see you. We want you to keep getting adjusted and seeing good results. And the best way to do that is get on my schedule.
If it's someone in a care plan and they're like 4 weeks in, I'll just walk to the front of them. They're sitting in the chair where I'm checking them. I walk to the front and I said, hey, John, so I understand, is there a problem with getting you scheduled? Is there something that we have to do? We have to pick a different time, different day? Because we're 4 weeks in, and my understanding is it's been hard to see you consistently.
Yeah.
And then I'm just, tell me. And they're like, well, and then we work through it. And then I think it calls them out to be like, yeah, you're right. Okay. I need a schedule. I need to prioritize this more.
Right. Yeah. But it also gives me backup at the front. I'm not some mean person trying to make them schedule and ruin their life. I'm just following the doctor's recommendations. And if you don't want to follow those, then the doctor's going to call you to the carpet. Yeah.
And you can always even use that when you say to him, you can say, hey, I realized you only came in twice this week. Dr. Todd said he wanted to see you 3 times. Let's find a third visit we can get you in so we can keep you on track.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that's important with kind of rescheduling people. I think a lot of the time, unfortunately, before, if objections, they were just letting people slide. And I definitely, sometimes it happens. People can't come. And I try and be understanding of that. But I also try my hardest to give them options so that it's not super easy.
And a side note, like when I talked about earlier of us trying to be a couple steps ahead of the objections, that's why on day 4, right? Day 4 is also we're doing clinic objections.
That's
or is that 5? Is
day
it 5? Is it 5? Okay.
Goals and clinic objectives.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's right. So day 4 is home care. Day 5, we do clinic objections, or clinic objectives, I should say. Clinic objectives is like our internal verbiage for it. For the patient, it should be, hey, we're sitting down with you so we can cover some things to set you up to be successful with your care. I mean, that's really how it should be worded to the patient. And we sit down with them, we have a little form, and the form just talks about kind of like the rules of the clinic, like how to schedule appointments and how to make things go smoother for you. Patient signs it. And then that document now, basically now it's saying you understand that you're supposed to come in set number of times. If you miss an appointment, we want you to make up the missed appointment to keep you on track. If you call to cancel an appointment, we're expecting you to call and not just say, I can't make it in, but we want you to call and we want you to be ready as the patient to say, hey, I can't make it in at 4. I can make it in at 6, or I can make it in tomorrow morning. Do you have another time open this week so I can stay on track? And then we as the staff can be like, yeah, absolutely, let's keep you on track, versus it's not our job at the time when you call to cancel for you to say, hey, I only have 2 seconds to call and cancel an appointment and I'll call you back later. And then you don't call back. And now you just gave us another chore and another task. Because honestly, on a side note, if that's the way it's going to be, we'll charge you like an extra $500 fee for having to track you down throughout your care and get you on the schedule. Or if you want a $500 discount, just be a good patient and don't do that right now. Maybe that's something that we implement into this as we go, your care cost X. However, if you can stay on track with your care, you will get a $500 credit or something. There might be something to that.
All right.
You know, it's either, right? It's either, what is it? Carrot or stick?
Oh, yeah.
Right. lead people along with a carrot or hit them with a stick?
Yeah. Just one last thing I guess I'd like to say about front desk too is your energy matters.
Oh yeah.
And like, even if you're having a bad day, we all do, that's not the patient's responsibility to make you feel better. There are patients that you get on a more personal level with and you can talk through some things. But like, my favorite thing to say to a patient, and I've been really noticing some good results from that, is for they walk in and I'm like, hi, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
And I think you can't be fake when you say that either. It has to come from an authentic place. And it does for me. I am glad they're here. I'm glad that they fought all of the things in their life that could have kept them away. And they made it here because they're taking their health as a priority. Because as much as you want to help someone, me want to help someone, you want to help someone, I feel like people are the hero of their own story.
Yep.
And I think that's what I love about chiropractic, and specifically our clinic, all of the different components. It really empowers a patient to be in control of their health journey.
Yeah.
I think Courtney's going to be like a future front desk trainer. Is what she's going to be. She's going to be traveling the world on stage, like teaching people how to be an excellent front office. Whew. All right. She should like drop the mic after that.
Boom.
All right. That's awesome. Cool. No, that's great. That's a great way to end too.
Good.
All right. But we are going to end because we're not the Joe Rogan podcast doing 3 hours. We try to keep it around an hour, about 25% past that, but that's cool. I think we covered a lot of great stuff. Yeah. Thank you so much for being on our podcast, and we want you back on again. And
thank you.
And thanks for being awesome in the clinic and making our team that much stronger, that much better.
Thank you.
And also being motivational too, which is great. It's awesome to hear one of our team members like speak and they're so motivated and motivational and you're like, oh, it's awesome.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So that's great. So anyway, for our audience out there, 2 links you'll hear in the outro. One is you can get a free book that we have called Move All Secrets, which is like 10,000 foot view of how all these operations and stuff work. You heard more details of that today. We dive deeper in the podcast, but we have all the systems laid out. We have flow charts and diagrams, and Danny will help you in any way possible, and I'll help you, and maybe Courtney will help you too. and so book. And then second thing is we have a demo. It's a 30-minute kind of like behind the scenes view of what the doctor platform looks like. So you can watch the demo and I walk you through a lot of the content in there, and you can see how the workflow works as far as learning these systems and implementing them. So that one is demo.movenowyou.com. The first one is book.movenowyou.com. You'll hear it again in the outro. You'll see it in the thing if I don't pull on this cord too hard. And with that said, we'll run the outro over and out. We'll see you on the next one. Subscribe, comment, do all that stuff that you do, whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to this on a podcast platform. We appreciate y'all. And with that said, we are going to roll it. Want more Move Now secrets? If so, then go get your copy of my best-selling book and watch my 30-minute behind-the-scenes Move Now demo. My book is called Move All Secrets, and you can get your free copy at book.movenowyou.com. And watch the 30-minute demo of our exclusive doctor training portal at demo.movenowyou.com. With these 2 resources, you'll find my top 22 secrets that we've used to build one of the smoothest running, results producing, and super profitable exercise departments within a chiropractic clinic in the entire profession.